So we're continuing with algebra, and we've got the notes here by the side again. And what we're going to look at now, so we're looking at how to calculate. We've done plus and minus. We've done a little bit of times in the previous video, but we'll continue with that now. And we've done some equations based on basic plus and minus. Right, so now we continue, and we're going to look at times and divide. Alright, so we said before that if we've got times, if we're multiplying things, we've got x times x equals x squared. Right? So the only times we get squares is when we're multiplying. We've also got, if we've got a number, let's go like that, 4x. So we've got 3 times 4 is 12, and we've got x times x is x squared. Okay, so like I said here, when we times, we first do the signs, then we do the numbers, and then we do the variables. So break it up into pieces. So what we've got here, so now the important thing that I also want to show you is, let's say we've got this. Minus 3x to the power 3 minus 2x squared. So that's what I meant when I said brackets is multiplication. Brackets means times. There is nothing in this bracket that we can do first. You know, like how we grouped things together with brackets? But there's nothing here to do first. It's just one term. So we need to multiply. So here we have signs first. Minus and minus is plus. You can write it if you like. Doesn't matter. 3 times 2 is 6. We've got x's. That's our variable. How many x's have we got? 3, 4, 5. So when we multiply the base, then we add the exponents. So this 5 was 3 plus 2. Right. Let's go like this now. Okay, I know my 5s look funny, everyone always says that. It's a 5. Okay, so now we first look at what are the signs that I've got here. I've got that thing, which is also just multiply. We've got this, which is multiply. There's nothing to plus or minus here, it just shows us that it's negative. Nothing to plus or minus, it just shows us that it's negative. So what we need to do, we need to first look at the signs. So minus and plus is minus, and minus is minus. So what you can do is you can count the minuses, and if it's an even number, then it becomes a plus. If it's an even number of minuses, then it's a plus. If it's an odd number, then it stays a minus. So there's 2 minuses here, odd number, so it becomes a plus. Now we look at the numbers. 3 times 4 is 12. 12 times 5 is 60. Okay, now we look at our variables. We've got x's. So the x's is, here there's 1, 2, 3. And the y's, we've got 1, 2, 3. And that's our answer. Okay, I just quickly want to mention something. This sum that I did here, I wrote the equals here at the bottom. So what I suggest you do, instead of doing it like this that I did it to save space because it's tiny sums. But it's better to write all your equals on the margin, because I don't want you to get confused between equations and simplifying. So all of these ones that we are busy with, so we've done that and we've done that. All of these ones, your instructions in the exam would be simplify. Simplify. For all of this, okay, so for this one, you'll have a separate instruction. The instruction would say factorize. And then for these ones, solving equations, it will say solve for x. And this one you'll do in a completely different section, so you won't get confused anyway. So be careful not to get confused between solving equations and simplify. I know it's easy to get confused, it sounds silly, but you've got an equals and then you're like, oh, what should I take over? And your brain just gets confused. So I'll do it in future as well, always writing the equals at the bottom. Unless if it's an equation, then we draw a line in the middle and we write it on both sides. So this is basically different types of multiplication. Now, what about if we've got something like this? So I said brackets means times, but we also know that brackets means grouping. So is there something we can do here first? No, there isn't, because I keep going the wrong direction. There's nothing we can plus and minus because it's not like terms. So we have to multiply. So I said brackets, where is that? Where did I write it? Brackets there, brackets is times. So we times that in with both of them. So it's called the distributive law, because we're distributing this. Like we go, here's one for you and here's one for you. So we're basically taking lollipops and distributing it between everyone in the class. So the x gets 4 and the 1 gets 4. So that would be equals. And if you get confused with this, because I see lots of people losing marks because they know it's multiply, but then their brains are totally stressed out in tests, and then they accidentally plus. So make yourself a times at the top so that you don't get confused. And that's what I also meant here again. Make your arrows so that you can see what you need to do, and your brain doesn't need to think too much. Okay, 4 times x is 4x. 4 times 1 is 1. This plus is not just a random plus. This one is positive because positive 4 times positive 1 is positive 4. All right, let's do another. And that's your answer. That's your answer because these are not like terms. You can't do anything else. Okay, so let's go like this. Okay, so the question is simplify. So then we've got, there's nothing we can do inside the bracket. So we need to take this in and distribute it between everything in the bracket. And that would be a multiply times. So we've got 3 times 1 is 3. And x times x is x squared. we've got positive and positive stays positive. 3 times 1 is 3, and x, y. Positive and negative is negative. 3 times 1 is 3, and we still have the x. Okay, now we have a look and see, are there any like terms that we can add? Nope, there isn't. So that is our answer. Done. Now let's go like this. Okay, so this is still distributive law, but instead of just one thing that we're distributing, we must distribute all of this. So here we've got a cupcake and a lollipop, and all these people need to get a cupcake and a lollipop. So, otherwise someone's going to cry that it's unfair. So we start with, I know there's various things that they teach you in school, like the FOIL method, or, I can't even remember what the others are called. But the basic thing is, every term here must be multiplied with every term there. And it's multiply. Then we're going to take the other number, and it also needs to be multiplied by both of these. So we start, I'm just going to write my equals a bit lower. So we start here, x times x is x squared. X times minus 3 is minus 3x. So now we're done with this one. Here we've got 1 times x is 1x. You can write the 1, but you don't have to. Positive and negative is negative, and 1 times 3 is 3. Okay. So every single time when you've got 4 things like this, you're going to have 4 things in your answer. But we can see here that this one and this one are like terms. So like terms we need to add together, like we said over there. Add like terms. So we've got x squared stays the same, minus 3 plus 1 is minus 2. Minus 2 what? 2x. And we've got a minus 3. So you'll get used to this pattern. Whenever we multiply out 2 brackets with 2 things in each bracket, it's going to look like this with 4 terms. You're going to add the ones in the middle, and you're going to get this. That we call a trinomial, a quadratic trinomial. Tri, because it's 3. Nomial, terms, number stuff. 1, 2, 3. So 3 terms basically. Quadratic, because it's got a square, and then we've got the same variable there, but there is only one of them. And then we've got no variable there. So quadratic trinomials. Right. I just quickly want to plant some seeds about factorizing. Just remember, factorizing is only in grade 9, not grade 8. So factorizing, we've got common factors is the most common way of factorizing. You can say factoring as well, by the way. And then we've got difference between squares, and we've got trinomials, quadratic trinomials. So if you factorize this one, you'll get right back there. And this would be a trinomial. If you factorize this one, you'll get right back there, and it would be a common factor. And this one would also be a common factor. That didn't make sense. We'll get to it later. All right. I think that's all what we need to do with the multiplication. So let's look at division quickly. Oopsie. All right. Okay, so division, we pretty much never use that sign anymore. Not really. We're more and more going to use fractions because fractions means divide. So if I've got 1 divided by 2, it basically is the same as saying 1 divided by 2. This one, we've got a line and a line. Whoops. And here we've got something at the top, something at the top, and something at the bottom. Something at the bottom. It basically just means divide. Right, so when we're looking at algebra, there's a big section about algebraic fractions that I will explain later as well. But I just quickly want to touch on it a little bit before we get to the equations. So if we've got something like this, how are we going to add that up? Can you remember from primary school? We're going to make it like terms. So then we're going to say the common, or the lowest common denominator here is 6. So how do I get this one to be a 6? Times 3. And if I do at the bottom, I must also do at the top. How do I get this to be a 6? Times 2. And what I do at the bottom, I must also do at the top. So we've got 6 now, and 1 times 3 is 3. We have a plus, and we have 1 times 2, which is 2. So our answer is then 2 plus 3, 3 plus 2 is 5 over 6. 5 divided by 6. And then if we are, so what is important for me just to touch on here before we get to the equations part is that fractions means divide. And what do we do to change fractions? We times. Okay, that's the most important thing I want to say here. I'll do another video about algebraic fractions because it gets quite involved, so we'll do that some other time.